Hello, I'm
Menoth John.
and I'd like to welcome you. First of all, let me take just a moment to thank you for allowing me back into your homes. If this is your first time with us, let me extend a personal invitation for you to drag out your
miniatures
and paint along with us each week. Let's go over to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe, every day's a good day when you paint. I believe, it'll bring a lot of good thoughts to your heart. I believe, every day's a good day when you paint. I believe, it'll bring a lot of good thoughts to your heart. Let's build a happy little cloud. Let's build some happy little trees. There are no limits here. You start out by believing here. You can almost paint with anything. All you have to do is practice. There are no limits here.
You damn Skippy, there are no limits here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the Sunday evening extravaganza. Yes, indeed, that is Painting with Menoth John. Heck to the yes. It's time for us to take the wraps off of this magic bus full of love and painting and bring it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into the show, let me bring you the co-host with the host, Mr. John Spencer. Say hello to the Brushheads, Mr. John Spencer.
Evening, Brushheads.
Gosh darn it, John, here we are. We're back at it and better than ever.
Indeed.
Hey, I have a few announcements before we get too far down the road here. I would like to congratulate the fine folks out there at the New England Privateers for Captain Con becoming funded. Yay, Captain Con.
Yay.
So right now they're sitting at $10,300 for a goal of $9,800. And they have 14 days to go on their podcast. We are going to have a special guest next week on the Sunday evening extravaganza. We're going to have Lonely Monk, one of the head honchos from there, on to talk about Captain Con in the first 30 minutes. He's going to be, we're going to bring him on because Google Plus is way the heck more reliable than Skype used to be. So I feel confident in bringing him in without crashing the entire damn show. So, God, you know what, John? I've gotten completely out of order here. I can't believe it. It's before we get too far into the announcements, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show. It's time to release the Kraken. What are you having for this evening, John?
Oh, I'm still on the black cherry whiskey.
You know what? We represent a level of consistency in the podcasting community that very few shows can rival.
That is true.
Yeah, so I want, for the sake of consistency and out to the New England Privateers for their successful funding of Captain Con, hey, Ron!
Ron!
You know, rum is just smoother out of a glass that has a pair of monkeys. So, speaking...
You have to try that out sometime.
Well, speaking of that, Mr. John Spencer, we are in hot pursuit when it comes to shot glasses. It turns out there is more than one solution, if you can believe it or not. There's more than one solution to getting shot glasses done.
So, really? I'm a little surprised, actually.
Yeah. You know, you can go the Cafe Press route. That's the easy way. But I'm looking into some other alternatives. I would like it to be as easy and, quite frankly, something that takes as little interaction with the progress as it took for me to do the Teespring. But we're working on that. So, Brushheads, keep your eyes on this site to see if when that's going to become available. And I would also like to bring the Brushheads up to speed on the next potential in-person sighting of Menoth John. That would be me. I figure it's always better on your show to speak in the third person because that doesn't come off like a douchebag at all. That'll be Kingdom Con. That would be Ross Thompson, the man who has a better life than anyone listening to this show. And I don't care who's listening to this show because he's got a better life than you do. And he's going to be there, as well as hopefully a whole bunch of you Brushheads. Come on up. Let's have a shot of Kraken together, and we'll raise a hearty Ron. Hey, Ron.
Ron.
I'm totally going bachelor tonight, so the Kraken might flow a little easy tonight. So that's kind of the announcements part of the show. I'm going to kick the video stream over to The fabulousness that is the painting area. That's what we call it here in the professional podcasting studio of Painting with Menoth, John. And I'm going to be working on the colossal Stormwall for the 433rd time on the show. And this week I have dedicated myself to actually getting this damn thing done. So, you heard it here first. I am going to get this done. So, John, I think next to releasing the Kraken, Deep Thoughts is amongst the most popular segments of this show. So do you have any deep thoughts for us tonight?
I have a couple. Since I only have a couple, I'm gonna frame them in a battle report way. Those both are pretty quick.
We like it that way.
I'll do reverse order. Saturday, one of the locals asked me came in looking for a game to test out his Commander's Crucible lists, because it's a new format we don't have a lot of experience with.
Mm-hmm.
And after asking, no one jumped up, so I stopped painting, jumped up, said, I'll kick your butt real quick. And I broke out Bart with Galleon, Vanguard, and then just a bunch of support. The usual suspects.
Sure, it makes sense. So Bart
And,
Galleon, and I can see where you wanted this game to end pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, it seems to be the way these games are going to go. He played Legion, and he is playing Lilith 3.
Okay, ooh.
He had like a Seraph, Typhon, a Bolt Thrower, and some Forsaken and stuff in the back. And
well, that's right, because the key to any Legion list is making sure you've got the Forsaken or the Shepherd to remove that Fury.
Yep, well, he had Forsaken and Shepherd.
Oh, wow.
And the Black Frost Shard. His plan seemed to involve getting the Black Frost Shard up, harming, and then Typhon spraying the Bejeebus out of something.
Okay.
Which seems pretty solid to me.
Yeah, got no problem with that.
I went first, ran forward. That's pretty much what I do.
Mm-hmm.
He came forward. He did his whole slipstream and moved forward and all this stuff.
Being all tricksy like that.
And I get down and I'm looking at his list. I'm like, well, let's see. She's on one camp. I think she's in 12 inches of the Galleon. So I'm like, screw it. Quick either way. Bart moves up, measures from next to the Galleon. Yep, in 12 inches. He pops his feet, does all this extra stuff. I had given him hot shot last turn.
Yep.
Gave him 3 focus this time. Everyone else does their stuff. Like, here's some magic weapons to get around wind wall. Here's your artillerist. And quite literally just aimed and shot her to death.
That will happen.
More impressive is the fact I missed with 2 of the 4 shots I rolled and still killed her.
That's the number one thing that I'm scared to death about with Resnick too, is that I'm just going to run up against somebody that's just going to say, oh, well, look at you. Aren't you dead right now?
Well, the difference is that your camp makes you a little safer because her camp just gives her 1, get that damage out of here, and yours is like makes your armor
that's true
that much better.
That is very true, sir.
And the deep thought from that is you really, really, really got to have at least an inkling of how far away your opponent can hit you from.
Well, and frankly, with her, she's focus 5. I mean, Fury 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in a person's game, if they're willing to trot out good old Lilith 3, they have to have at least the guts enough to be able to read a 2-inch, distance beyond their control area.
Well, honestly, with potential 16-inch range for 1 round, he's not in too much danger. He would have lived through just the secondary guns. It was the harpoon that did the finishing touches.
That harpoon, I hear, does a fair amount of damage when it hits you.
Yeah, PAL 15 is pretty solid.
Yeah, buddy.
So that's the first deep thought. May not be that deep, but you really got to know because there's only so much you could learn since I killed him top of turn 2.
Well, John, as the co-host with the host, any type of insight we call deep around here.
And then the second game actually has something to do with PAL 15 as well.
Pray tell.
One of the locals realized you'd never played me, so he challenged me to a game, and he told me to bring as hard a game as I can, since he was there for last week's incident of someone telling me to play down to their level. So he's like, bring your A game. So I'm like, all right. I knew he was playing minions, didn't know what he was playing in minions, so I just brought Durgan. It's theoretically my minion drop because it's got Alton Ashley and Victor Pendrake.
Sure.
And he's like, he wins the roll. He's like, I'll let you go first. I'm like, okay. So I run forward. and just take just a huge area of the table.
Yep.
He ended up playing Rask, and I mean Rask can make a black-eyed wrestler get stupid threat range.
Oh yeah, yeah. He sends them from long
He
downtown.
can fire the wrestler missile pretty far. So I was cognitive of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, my second turn, he'd moved up, did all his positioning. I'm like, well, hell, I'll just start off with gun mages. Dougal went first, popped his mini feet because second turn's about the right turn to do that.
Sure.
Because you get that extra range, and honestly, you're not going to need it later in the game. So actually, I might have, but
Well, but in 9 times out of 10, that seems like a good place because you don't want to leave that sitting on the table if you don't have to.
no, you use it the first opportunity. So I used it, and Gun Mage's advanced. I did a lot of Thunderbolt shots at his Wrestler, who had spiny growth on him, and I'm not expecting to hurt him. I mean, I actually did a couple Brutals that critted, but I didn't do any real damage.
Sure.
And then I did a lot of Thunderbolts, just hoping to knock him down, because that sort of hinders his threat range and the damage he can do.
Right.
But didn't get a single crit. But I did manage to push his guys in this nice little clump. So I'm like, well, now it's time for the mule to go. Well, it'll aim.
Oh no.
It'll snipe. Add extra for Dougal. So that's like freaking 18 inches.
That's
forever.
That's a long old way for a mule.
And as I said, the gun mages have done crap. I mean, sure they did some Thunderbolts. I'm not displeased, but they weren't amazing. And the mule's like, oh, you let me shoot for the first time? Because I'd forgotten to bring my painted one out, so I had the unpainted one I'd modified and just put together not too long ago. He's like, I'm going to show you that I deserve paint. Fires his first shot, 665. I'm like, well, that's a crit. That's good.
Oh man.
And I caught the Wrestler, Wrong Eye, Snapjaw, the Swamp Horror, and one of the undead fishmen, Ogtrogs from the Shamblers in the blast. So that was a heck of a blast, and just boom.
You know what we're going to call that particular move? It's going to have a special name in War Machine history. We're going to call that particular grouping Tastes Like Chicken.
Tastes like chicken. And I roll a 6. They all go flying back. So, suddenly that whole threat is completely off the table.
So wait a second here. Just to back up for a second, you rolled 665 on your to hit, and then you followed it up with a 6 on your slam.
Yep.
On your throw or whatever it is. Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Look at you with the hot dice.
Yeah, they did pretty good for him. Sent him flying back. It was good stuff. I continued with my turn as normal. Pretty aware that he's got Bog Trogs coming in from the flank, one of the flanks. He's got a min unit coming in.
Sure.
It's another deep thought there. You can't be afraid of little guys like that. And when I moved my hammer dwarves towards one of the flags, I looked and I'm like, yeah, they might be in range to charge, so I should make them tough. I'm like, wait, no, their leadership isn't amazing for those fishmen, so let's rock +1 defense and terror.
You are super sweet, John Spencer.
So that was thought. And other side I had Terran sitting there near another flag. I don't care. I mean, go ahead and try and kill Terran, your fishmen. You're just not going to have that great of a chance.
Swing and a miss.
But that flag near Terran goes away. The other one stays.
Yep.
I'd also primed the gun mages just in case it's something stupid. It was my plan before I sent all that group of guys flying back to prime them. So if he tries to go through them, he's going to just take tons of damage because he does not have guns. And so they come in the other side near the hammer dwarves, charge in. They pass their command check.
Oh.
They only have 2 of them in melee with 1 hammer dwarf, and then the rest either out of range of the hammer dwarf or out of range of Eris 1, who's nearby. Passes the command check, like I said. Rolls to hit. The first one straight misses. The second one hits and then fails to penetrate armor. So I'm like, rock on. Didn't kill myself with that, choosing +1 defense to the tough. His other stuff moves his gators forward and all. I'd actually put Brine into a group of gatormen after shooting a couple of them. Because I bring Rorsch and Brine because they're awesome.
Ninja Pig.
And he put Fury on the gatormen. The gatormen, they couldn't charge Brine, but they wandered in. And they chose rerolls, and one of them was trying to get to Durgan and missed because everyone always forgets that Rorsch has a little spell called Pigpen.
And pray tell, what does that pig pen do, sir?
Within 3 inches of him, it's difficult terrain, and he wandered, settled up right in front of Mad Hammer
Mm-hmm.
to block the area and put that out, and made it work like a charm. The one guy who tried to charge stopped, fairly far away because he couldn't get to him.
Gotta like baby in hospitable ground.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I've got inhospitable ground too, but not putting that out made him think that he was good, and then ended up failing.
Sucker.
So he put 2 Gatormen who couldn't charge into brine, and boy, I've never seen anyone tank rolls like he tanked rolls. They have re-rolls, and they get 2 attacks apiece,
Yes, they do.
and he hit twice.
Oh, no kidding. And he survived, huh?
Well, he died because he put the Wrestler in first, but it was a close thing, and I wanted him to die because that was the whole plan.
Sure.
So I get there, do some damage. My next turn comes around, and I'm like, this stuff's pretty clumped up again.
Here comes the mule.
I activate the mule first. He wanders forward and just takes a shot with snipe again. 663. Hey, that's another crit.
Hey, how about that?
I send. It's not quite as good this time. It's the Bull Snapper, the Black-Eyed Wrestler, and the Swamp Whore flying. But the Wrestler lands on top of Rask and squirts him forward.
Well, ain't that special?
Yeah. That was a 5 for distance this time. A 6 would have cleared him.
Oh, 5's perfect.
Anything
then.
less than a 4 would have been great, but for him. But it's just land on and squirt him forward. It was looking like, well, your gun mages are going to kill me. One of the guys is like, yeah, your gun mages are going to kill him. So I start moving, and I'm moving like I'm still playing a long game, and they're like, what the heck?
Yep.
And that comes sort of to my deep thought is play every turn like you're going to keep playing this game, like it's not going to end unless you have a surefire, no chance to fail. I mean, no chance to fail, no dice involved, auto win.
Now that's straight up awesome advice, because if you listen to folks like Keith Christensen and stuff like that on Muse and other folks from different podcasts, the really high end players, while they do their level best to mitigate the dice, they always keep in the back of their head that this is indeed a dice game, and they want to have contingency plans. They hope they don't have to use them, but they certainly have them and waiting there in the wings.
Absolutely. And I activated the gun mages, and they just start taking shots at Rask, who's knocked down with only 1 transfer. And I used 6 of them. 6 of them combined do 5 damage to him.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Nope. And I did a little bit of damage with the mule, like another 5 or so. So I'm like, it's not good. But the last one, the officer, takes a shot at the Gatorman who has Fury on him, who's engaging Rorsch.
Yep.
Hit him, managed to push him out of the way, and Rorsch goes up, and Rorsch, boosted Pal 12 kill casters. How about 2 boosted and 1 regular?
Well, there you go.
Left him with like 3 hit points, and Mad Hammer's like, all right, I got this.
I can't.
Yeah, I can't help but kill this.
Super
and
awesome.
I do, and so there you go. I mean, he really didn't do much wrong aside from the clumping.
Yep.
And on one end, you can't be afraid of clumping your stuff up just because they have a critical that could send you flying. On the other hand, you have to be aware that if he crits, like that mule straight won that game. MVP.
MVP. Oh, yeah, hands down.
I mean, it was amazing. And he's going to get some paint soon. And he's kind of cool. He's my custom mule. We joke because when I put together my Goblin Tinker, I did a poor job of the first one. Yeah, I own 2. I'm crazy. And I couldn't get his backpack on.
Okay.
There wasn't enough room between him and the cart because I had done a bad job.
I understand about doing bad jobs on Goblin Tinkers. I promise you that.
So I'm like, well, I just took his little furnace thing, his little boiler, and I put it on the back of the plastic mule's gun. I'm like, modifications are cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And so now the joke is that second boiler is overrated. It's overpowered. It's OP.
Second boiler on a Gobber Tinker is Tinkler. That's a good name for it too. The Gobber Tinkler is OP.
Yep. So that was my 2 games. Only about 5 turns of mine overall. Not even all of those super long, but the guys learned some stuff, and
yep,
I learned some stuff.
And we got
Maybe I
material
don't
for the
need to change
podcast, which is
I want
totally
to learn
clutch.
so much. Indeed. Well, I try to learn something from every game. It's hard sometimes, but I try.
Oh,
I feel like you
absolutely.
should be able to find something from every game to learn.
Absolutely. And I was given the opportunity by one of the friends of the show, Mr. Zach, to learn some stuff this weekend too. I got a chance to play against Sturgis, the Signar version of Sturgis, and I thought I had just the list for him. One of my lists that I'm working on for Retribution is a Raven list that I'm trying to craft it so that it'll have some game against hordes as well, because Snipe Feet Go usually when it runs up against a warlock because of transfers, it has all kinds of problems. So I decided I was going to build one that had Eris 3 in it, and so I've got a minimum unit of infiltrators in there to kind of be able to deliver her. And then I've got the usual suspects, Invictors with the UA and Mage Hunter Strike Force with the UA. And I see him put down. He ran Dem Jakes and Sturgis, and Dem Jakes was running a Charger, and he had Junior in there, so he had all the arc shields, and he had Silver Lines, and he had some Storm Blades in there with 3 Storm Throwers, and so if you're looking at this list, I'm kind of living the dream here. It's like I've got a lot of defense 12 or up on the hill defense 14 troops, and I should with Raven I should be able to just shoot. Well, it turns out that if you get greedy and attempt an assassination on Sturgis by doing a combined ranged attack with all of your Invictors in one shot, it's probably not enough damage to kill him outright. So I ended up, it was we were playing, gosh, it had a rectangle in the middle, and I can't remember what else, but I lost on scenario. I just straight up, going for that assassination was the dumbest thing I possibly could have done. All I needed to do was to do the necessary stuff to contest, and let me tell you what, that new Sturgis guy, he's a thing. Being able to suck everybody in from within 3 inches and then hitting them with a POW 12 when you are Retribution can be a bit of a problem. So,
Indeed.
I ended up losing on. I conceded the game because I lost like 2/3 of my army after his feat turn, and I guess if I had to come up with a deep thought, I would say the deep thought is don't get greedy. Sometimes standing back and keep attritioning and keep on winning is the right way to play this game. And if I had been, because I had my Invictor's mini feat on, I think I went second, and they advanced and they mini feated and they had snipe. So I was shooting 18 inches and I was just laying havoc to his troops. And one thing that he did have is he had a storm thrower. He had a Firefly with a storm caller and some Rangers over on one side of where I had my Mage Hunter Strike Force deployed because we were playing Incursion. And so I ended up having to back them off, and I never ended up getting them into the game. And let me tell you, when a unit of Rangers and a Storm Caller with a Firefly causes such terror in you that you back them off and end up losing the game because of it, you might be playing the game incorrectly. So
Yeah.
I think it's not a bad list. I think that Sturgis is a darn good caster. And to Zach, I don't have any Kraken right now. I'll get some in a little bit, but here's a little spotted cow Ron for you. Hey, Ron.
Ron.
And so that's my deep thought is, when you've got a list that is built to attrition, use it to attrition. It might be the right thing to do. So anyway, John,
You gotta not be afraid of enemies' models. You gotta know what they can do, and just sometimes you just gotta be like, I can kill that part. Maybe I lose a couple dudes, and just make them kill your dudes.
Yep,
I think sometimes it's important to just not be afraid. The mind game is honestly more important than any part of the game aside from rolling the dice.
Yep, that is absolutely straight up truth. So I'm still continuing to play my Retribution. Love them. Still a lot happier with them than I was before the Thane came out. But I've still got a lot of learning to do with these guys. And we've got a Commander's Crucible event up in Madison coming up, and I doubt that I'm going to bring Retribution to that. I'm probably going to play either I'm going to go Three Dwarfs and play all that kind of fun. It's only 35 points, so I've got some thoughts on what to do with that, and I might actually run them past you, John, because you're kind of the dwarf whisperer. And then I've also got the possibility of playing some Protectorate with the lists that I kind of ran at TempleCon. So there's some thoughts there. But
yeah, and I'm running the next tournament we're running locally is also Commander's Crucible, 35 points.
Oh,
So I'm doing a lot of thinking about that.
I'm totally going to dojo with you this week. So, and we'll talk about that after the first week in May when I have that thing, because I'm not giving away any awesome tech that I get from the host with the host.
That's funny. That's when ours is. Ours is May the 4th.
Oh, nice. All right, buddy. Well, it turns out that the Brushheads have once again turned out in force for everyone's favorite half hour of fun and frivolity. We just call it Flippity Bloop. And John,
Absolutely.
how many do we have tonight?
Currently, it's at 17, but I haven't checked in a minute or two. So let me do a quick check here and see if I can find any more, since they're in a couple different places here.
Sure. You know, we're at 25 viewers there in the chat room, as far as we can tell.
We are, yes.
So I would like to raise this particular Kraken is for the 25 Brushheads, which does not include John Damaris, who is ducking this podcast. I think he's afraid of it. I think he's afraid of all of the awesome that the Brushheads can bring when perfectly aligned in some type of, I don't know, formation, if you will. So to all the Brushheads who made it, and to the duck that didn't, hey, Ron.
Ron.
Nom, 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 nom.
Ooh, I have one more quick deep thought.
What's that deep thought, buddy?
Eat dinner before you start drinking.
Oh, my snap. Are you getting a little tipsy, my friend?
I'm feeling a little bit of it. I haven't
good.
eaten for a bit.
I started drinking earlier than normal today, so this is we're going to see how this podcast goes. So what you got for our first Flippity Bloop?
All right, our first one is from Eric Defoe, who's Edifo there in the chat room.
Super ultra double secret ultra brushhead Edifo.
And as he had mentioned there, what happens in the finals table is Troll versus Troll, Calandra versus Calandra.
Everyone should kill themselves.
Yeah, I think you throw up.
Yeah, that's just the worst thing I've ever heard. And
that's the dice game. It's just pray your dice roll better than your opponents and see if you can dice him.
Yay, dice! Yay! That's the soundtrack of that particular game. Ish.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, if someone brought a traditional Calandra with trolls, and the other guy brought maybe Calandra with all the minions who are hard to hit, then we know how that one sort of swings then. But
true that. So, in case you ever get that chance to see a Calandra on Calandra slow bus screwfest, there you go. Bring the minions. God.
And Info actually says his PG quit. I assume it's over that game.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell.
And I don't blame him.
I'm gonna tell you what. I can't imagine. As I listen to people talk about trolls and stuff like that, I am utterly terrified of I played a game against Jake Hickok from Michigan at Adepticon, and it was Tuffalos, and it was all kinds of, it was warders and all this stuff. I don't have any idea what to do against that. I hate that.
Shoot them.
Oh my god.
Shoot them again.
Yeah, well, how you shoot warders to death? Underneath the Creelstone, they're just like armor a billion, and anyway, I don't know.
Apparently I just bring my mule and I'll crit them and send them all flying. That seems to be the answer.
Apparently you've got an answer, but what about Menoth John? He's got nothing. So
bring a mule.
A mule. I guess I could take a mule. I've got access to Gaston. That's a better use of him than putting him with a galleon, because that sounds like I'm gonna lose him and then have 19 points sitting on the table doing Jack and Shiznat.
The problem with that is you have to bring a 2-point mechanic, probably
Raluk?
Probably Rock Mokal, because he's pretty hard to kill.
Yeah.
and to reactivate it afterwards, and it's still not necessarily the great plan. But
No, no. But that let's see, Gaston, is he 4 points? Yeah, he's 4 points, right?
three,
3. So you got 3 plus
three.
5 points plus the galleon. Ishkabibble. It'd be fun to try though.
Oh, I'm going to try it at some point. I've threatened the locals with Galleon Earthbreaker at some point.
Yeah, they were talking about that on Muse on Minis. But I'm sure whatever list you'd come up is better than what they come up with.
Yeah, Josh Maxson is not someone I get a lot of Merc tech from after some of the things he said. He seems like he's okay, but he doesn't like Durgan, and he thinks mules and hammer dwarves and gun mages are not great, and I don't know what's wrong with him.
I love throwing other podcasts underneath the bus. That is just as good as it gets because nobody listens to us. So we can say whatever we bloody well please.
I'm only going to throw him under the bus because that hit me, and I was like, really? Because he was talking about Ashland. It's like, well, if you build for the feat, like taking gun mages and hammer dwarves and mules with Ashland, I'm like, you built what people play in Mercs anyways.
Yeah.
Good Lord. And Ashland just makes them work better. I mean, come on.
I know. Quick
come on, man.
Come on, man. Quick and hammer dwarves are hysterical.
Quick and hammer dwarves with Lanissa Rasal.
Super hysterical.
That's my next super secret tech.
And you gave it away right here. I'm painting with Menoth John.
I'll give away my tech. I can let him know.
Oh man, that's some awesome stuff. Flippity bloop.
All right, Benj Paptao Henson asks, "Have you started on this Boom Howler yet?"
No.
And on a serious note,
no, and go F yourself.
So the serious note for discussion, me and a buddy really started really shocked at people's responses to Gorshade 3 and how the podcast universe has dismissed him. What are your thoughts?
You know, I'm going to say it first here. The podcast community, God bless us, has no imagination. I think he's terrifying. I am absolutely in the camp of Trevor Christensen on this. In that, how do you defend against that? You throw some incorporeal models running through your stuff because Lord knows Crix doesn't have any incorporeal models. They wouldn't have any idea what to do with that. They only have the best 1-point incorporeal model in the game, the Machine Wraith, and he's speed 7. Did I mention that? He's speed 7, and
I've never seen one. So
yeah, exactly. Well, the stock ought to go up on those guys because you run them up next to your caster. Oh look, you fell over. Plam, 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 plam. At that point, the silly any gun you can bring with. I hear NIS work for them. And you just shoot the caster to death. Anyway, I think that I think Gorshade 3 has got all kinds of play. I think he's stylish as hell. I was looking at the one that legendary Brushhead Gex the Lizard was painting at Adepticon, most likely for Keith Christensen. Although I can't confirm that, but I'm not sure who else should be painting for. So might possibly, it was looking pretty awesome, and we'll see how that works out. But I'd play the guy for God's sakes, and the model is stylish as hell. What's your thoughts, John?
I have a healthy respect for him. He has what seems to be a really solid game, and got respect. I mean, people say he's boring, but boring doesn't mean ineffective.
I hear winning is not that boring.
I don't know. I've played Haley 1.
Oh, that's boring. That's boring. I'm playing Haley 1 at the team tournament in Kingdom Con, and if it's anything like the Unlikely Allies team tournament that I played in Chicago, basically I'm like the kid with the helmet on in the back of the bus for that thing, and then my partner does all the work. Well, temporal barrier, they just gonna cast it now, and yeah, there you go, flippity bloop.
All right. Edipo puts another one up here. Says, what are your thoughts on the power creep, for lack of a better term, that War Machine is seeing, where one or two releases are so strong that it brings the faction to the forefront?
What do you think about that, John? I'd like to hear your take on that first.
Well, I'm assuming he's talking about Rhett more than anything, and I'm not really sure it's power creep. People say that Assyria and the the House Guard Thane really brought them up and made them have an answer for stealth, but I've actually played Rhett, and that answer for stealth, it's just shooting people within 5 inches works.
Yeah.
You just got to change your game. I mean, I really don't think there's power creep. If there was power creep, then the Crix players would be the ones going, "Hey, look, this brand new model is amazing."
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just clarified. So he's talking about Ret, Mercs, and Circle. Circle maybe, but I've got respect for Govana, but I don't think she's the best. She's just got a lot of good tools, maybe above what most of them have. But I'm still a little more worried about Kruger 2 than Morvana. She makes her stuff super effective, doesn't stop your stuff from doing its job. So if you can play your own game tight, you reduce her effectiveness a bit by just not letting it bother you.
Yeah, Godvana, what's happened to her recently? Because, I mean, obviously Pagani put her away, which is a thing. But if she was as broken as crap as people are saying, I think we'd be seeing her winning everything, and it's just not happening.
Yeah, and then like for Mercs, I guess we're talking about Earthbreaker. Earthbreaker seems really good, but it's not an auto win by any stretch of the imagination. You've got to play it right.
Mm-hmm.
There are anti-knockdown tech. You just have to really think about it. And with Mercs, I mean, honestly, can you really have? I mean, I play Mercs. I love Mercs. I do well with Mercs. But can you really have something, getting power creep with Mercs? I mean, it's still only PAL 13 shooting. Gorton himself's like, okay, you're gonna knock me down and shoot me, and it's random numbers, so you could very well get 3 shots, 4 shots total, I guess, 2 shots with the random guns and 2 torpedoes, and not be able to kill any high armor caster.
I
Even with Thor.
completely agree. He's all full of shenanigans, but shenanigans are not what wins games. It's solid tactics that wins games.
And someone mentioned when Eagles fan was playing me a couple weeks back with my Ostrom list, if he had kept on with his Widowmakers and Marksman flanking, he might have had a fair shot at Thor. And if Thor goes away, Earthbreaker's just another colossal.
Yep.
And one with really good tricks, but still just another colossal.
Yeah, when we won down in Chicago with Chad and I down there, it was not Chad from Museums, but Chad Kaufman from the Chicago area. When we won that tournament, we faced a really difficult first round opponent with the Major Tusk and Jordan down there, and they were running an Earthbreaker. And the first chance I got when I was playing Haley 1, I chained Lightning Thor to death. Let me tell you what a big move that was. You chained all of a sudden that Earthbreaker becomes reasonably pedestrian. I mean, you still got to deal with the fact he's got a billion health boxes and stuff, but he's reasonably pedestrian.
Yeah, he's without Thor. I mean, Thor really turns him on, and he's got a good game, but I don't really think it's so much power creep. Maybe just slightly more powerful. I mean, is he really more powerful than Galleon? Galleon's really good too.
Yeah,
Stormwall's really good. It's just there's a couple that are really good and synergize well with their factions or fill a hole that they need filled, and then the rest are just sort of not quite as good. I think that's more what it is. We're seeing models that fill good holes in factions, so they look so much more powerful than the other releases.
Yeah, I
think
the
cavalry, the Fermenoth the Flamebringers that you're doing well with.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone looks at them as they're crap because they don't necessarily fill a hole that people thought needed filled, but then maybe they do.
I think that I was listening to Chain Attack the other day, and they were rating the best and worst of Vengeance, and I'll grant you, you can sit there and say what you want about the Flamebringers versus other things. I've got a list, and Painter will back me up on this, that because of how the list is created, the Flamebringers are absolutely appropriate in that list, and they bring a lot of special stuff to the list because of how fast they are. It causes Protector to be played in a different way, and it's different than how your opponent might expect a Protectorate player to play, and frankly, it may cause them to drop an unfavorable list on you. As I look at with having access to Silence of Death, where you have some tough mitigation, I really think that list has got some play in it. But if you look at it and don't take those things into account, I think you can dismiss them. But boy, I sure like my girls, and I'm looking forward to when that day comes that I put the Creator of Man's Chosen Ones back on the table. The Flamebringers are going to see some play, just so I can show some people that, you know what, those girls, they got it going on. So flippity GDFA
Absolutely.
Bloop. Got me worked
All
up on
right.
that one,
Declan
John.
Lowry asks, "What BS is gun mages in a Mercliffe marshalling a mule? Getting crit devastation plus Thunderbolt." I
Yeah.
think we covered that one.
Yep, it's pretty cool. Turns out that gun mages may be better in Mercs than they are actually in Signar. What a shock.
Yeah.
Gun
So
mages are freaking amazing in Mercs.
they are. I don't use them all the time, but if I'm playing Highborn, I think really hard before not bringing them.
There's a reason that I painted my my gun mages in my Mercs colors, not my Signar colors.
Mine are in Signar colors just because at that point I was theoretically more of a Signar player, but I don't even own Signar anymore, so they weren't good enough.
So I'm gonna
Had to
tell
go to Mercs
I'm gonna
instead.
tell you what. Benj Faptow Hansen is amongst my favorite of all brushheads here recently. This guy knows how to put together a Facebook profile picture. The stuff he comes up with for his profile picture is absolutely epic. So my hats off to him, and I've got a handful of Stormwall right now. But hey, Ron, this one's for you.
Ron.
Flippity bloop.
All right. Next one is again from Edifow. He's been pulling his best Brett Painter
I know, seriously.
impression, but
Seriously, where is Brett anyway? The hell with him.
yeah, he did all of his last week, and they weren't as good as Edifow's questions, anyways.
Shot his load,
So
you
he
say?
asks,
Anyway.
yeah, how much will planning for convergence? How much for planning for convergence, since they're a real faction now, affect your list builds?
Almost
And
none.
what's Menoth's greatest strength versus them?
Almost no planning at all because I can't plan for any particular faction. I mean, honestly, I've got to bring stuff that if I wanted to bring a build specifically, especially for Retribution against Convergence, I'd bring Kalissa and the all feedback army. But and don't think for a second that hasn't crossed my mind. But with Father Lucant coming out, if I'm gonna see plenty of Father Lucant, and that's makes things bad. So I would say, what's Menoth's particular build against Convergence? God, against Father Lucant, I would say that probably your number one build is going to be a Krios 2, but you've got to commit but if you're going to commit yourself to, a 2 list kind of affair, because Lucant just shuts shooting right down, because there's nothing more frustrating than an entire army of shield guard. I would say that a possibly a one of the purification casters, so like a Harbinger or a Krios 1 is certainly a good option. But I don't know. I like Sevi 1, I like Krios 1, I like Harbinger. Not so much a Fiora build, because I don't think that the fire they really give two rats rear ends about a fire build. But I would say probably Krios and Harbinger. What are your thoughts, John?
I'm not really sure what Menoth's answer is, but if you've got a shooting list and you're worried about them, pick around the edges rather than going for the center.
Mm-hmm.
Try and flank your shooting out to the side and pick at the sides, and just because they can't shield guard as much because there's so much, there's not as many models there to shield guard. You just keep pounding on the one on the side and just start working your way in, and use your really good medium infantry, or whatever you've got, your tar pit, and just put it in the center and tie them up.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure, they do good, but one weapon master in front of each jack, they can't just ignore that, because he could straight cripple them with a good hit.
Yeah, and honestly, as we move into a world where Enigma Foundries are a thing, they are going to see a ton of table time, but they're large bases, and keep that in mind. You've got to get the Enigma Fund. Those builds are going to rely so heavy on their recursion mechanic that if you can get in there and you can screw with that recursion mechanic and kill those Enigma Foundries, you can get it done. That's where the moneymakers are going to be early on. Can you get a long-range boostable gun into those Enigma Foundries and get them dead early so that you have a chance? Because, bringing back to life those hit points is you're going to have a bad time. So I guess, I don't know. That's about all I got, John.
Me too. Haven't given a lot of thought. Haven't played them yet.
Flippity Bloop.
All right.
I've almost
Edifo's
never.
last one isn't actually a question. It's he wanted to give a shout out to Chris Johnson from Mechanical Studios. Says his product is amazing and he's great to deal with.
Yep. Explosivo, Chris Johnson is one of the true stalwarts of the community. I love this guy. I have a Mechanical Studios. I've got a Mechanical Studios one that I bring. I also have a Fool's table that I bring as well. Huge fan of both of their products. I think that Chris is a very good businessman. He takes care of his customers. Couldn't be a nicer guy. And so I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to work with a reputable firm that and you want a nice tray, his stuff is top notch. I need to take a closer look at the double decker because it seems top heavy, but we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt because if there's one thing that Chris Johnson knows, it's the mechanics of it all. I mean, he's a very highly trained machinist and really one of the nicest fellas you ever want to meet in your whole darn life. That wasn't the last Flippity Bloop, was it, John?
Hell no.
Oh God, I panicked there for a second. I thought you said it was the last one. And I was like, my show's gonna go to hell.
It's Edifo's last one.
I guess I'm okay with that. Oh, did I say that? Did I say that into the mic?
The next one's from Scott Hebel II. He
Scott
asks, "Does anyone actually like raisins, or do we just tolerate them?"
Raisins, as in the small dried fruit bits?
Yep.
That's a tough
I love
call.
me some raisins, especially covered in chocolate.
All right, so here's where I like raisins.
What isn't good covered in chocolate?
Well, yeah, exactly. You could put like pubic hair in chocolate and it would be fine.
Maybe not so much.
Well,
maybe not so much.
I needed to make somebody laugh out there in podcast land. So, okay, so raisins. So let's explore for a second what raisins are. Raisins are dried grapes that never made it to being turned into wine. And I think that's a shame. I really do. I have to look at that as a potential loss to the wine world, is that could have been wine and now it is a dried ass grape. So do I really like them? I think they're fine. I think they're awesome in oatmeal cookies because an oatmeal cookie is good. But they tend to stick in my teeth, John. And I guess I've got
me too, but I gotta be really careful with my teeth anyway, so I just clean them extra.
Yeah, I can see that point of view. But I'm gonna say that I'm gonna give raisins 2 shots of Kraken. I think is probably where I'm gonna rate them. Where are you gonna rate them, John?
I'll give them 1 shot of Kraken, 0 if covered with chocolate.
Oh, hot damn. Okay, I'll give them a -1 shots of Kraken for being covered in raisins as well. I mean, and not raisins covered in raisins. Yeah, that's great. Let's drink some more, John. Raisins covered in chocolate. So, flippity bloop.
All right, next one's from David Wanky. He asks, he says he's almost done painting his Earthbreaker. What should I name it?
You should name it, how many attacks does a infiltrator have? It's a long name, but I think it's appropriate for you, Dave. Jerk.
My thought is we need to find up a good way to make Jaeger-like names so I can name all my colossals like they're Jaegers.
So, okay, well, let's explore that for a second. We have Gypsy Danger, we have Cherno Alpha, we have... I mean, are we seeing any trends here in Jaeger names?
Random words put together.
Okay. So how about Heartbreak Beta?
That works.
Or let's see, Benghazi fuel oil.
Suggestions from Nevendar are Cuddles, and Van01 says you should hug it and squeeze it and call it George.
These are all good names. Listen, all you got to do is leave it to the Brushheads. I'm serious. That should be the name of a show. Leave it to Brushheads. Because we would fix things. And I'm highly supportive of all those names. So, once again, if I had any Kraken out here, and I may have to, I'm sorry, I got to break out the Kraken here. This is, we were going far too deep into the Flippity Bloops without me having some Kraken, so I'm going to get some out here.
All right, well, we'll get to another silly one in the meantime.
Okay.
My boy Frank Thompson, who's stuck in the UK, the Air Force right now.
Frickin' love
Says, I
that
keep
guy.
seeing snails of unusual size here in the UK when I walk around. Does this have any metaphysical importance?
Snails of an unusual size.
Yes.
Metaphysical.
Frankly, I don't believe they exist.
I'm going to need to see some. I don't remember ever reading in the gospel that there were any snails of unusual size. So I'm going to guess that I'm going to pretty much reject their existence as you are, John, and say that I need to see proof. And even then, I'm going to say dogma says no. So I'm going to say no metaphysical evidence because they don't exist. Flippity bloop.
And his real question is, ever play any of the No Quarter historical scenarios? He's considering building the one from No Quarter 53.
I got to tell you, they make me warm in nether places. And I'm not talking about Nevendar places. I'm talking about nether places. They seem really cool. They're super stylish. It looks like a fair amount of thought went into them, and I haven't played one of them, but I would like to. And maybe I'll take one of my Tuesday night games and say, hey, let's throw down on this historical scenario because they are cool. What do you think, John?
If anyone suggested it at the store, I would absolutely be into it. I probably don't go out of my way to look for one, but I'm always up for playing them.
You know what my biggest problem with them is, John, is that I have a very limited number of games that I get in per week, and usually there's some tournament in the offing that I want to play in, and I am never prepared enough for any of those, as my win-loss record would indicate. And so it's hard for me to break into a practice schedule that doesn't involve one of my normal 50-point lists.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't even get as much practice as I want with random card games and board games and D&D and such.
I hear you there. I'm gonna call Flippity Bloop on this one.
All right. Well, Cliff Hughes asks, "What's your favorite modeling tool?"
My favorite modeling tool. My favorite modeling tool is an X-Acto knife. And I'm going to hold this up for all the brush heads out there. I'm going to hold up my X-Acto knife because this is not only cuts things, but when properly licked, I'm going to try and lick on camera here. That's good for the internet right there. That ought to get us an extra 50 to 100 hits. Because I'm going to put
Absolutely.
I'm going to put in the tags licking and see how that does as far as driving our YouTube videos. So because it can be good for when you do a little bit of green stuff and you want to use it to join joints together when you're assembling, you give it on there and then you put it on there and it helps the green stuff release off of the tool. And then it also, because it has a flat blade to it, it's nice for smoothing the green stuff too, because it smooths the green stuff where it gets the hose. That's how we roll here at Painting with Menoth John. So I think I have to give it to the X-Acto knife. What do you think, John?
Mine's actually similar. I'm actually going to go with the actual sculpting tool.
Oh, look at you getting all fancy.
Green stuff, and green stuff is pretty much my hobby and game started going to the next level.
Yep. I hear you.
Actually assembled models that don't fall apart and a little bit of sculpting here and there.
That if you're not using the green stuff glue method for putting models together, you're just asking for trouble. I think it's better than pinning myself.
I don't know. I've gotten pinning down to pretty easy, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't pin, and I use the green stuff glue, and I almost never have a model that gets goofed up. So I'm gonna stick with it until somebody proves me wrong. So take that, Flippity Bloop.
All right. Well, the next one is from Jerry in Ireland, who asks, who is Menoth's top 3 list pairing?
Ooh,
Barbie, Efiora, and question mark.
And question mark 71. I think 71 is
Krios 1, Krios 3. There's a lot who seem like they got good game.
Yeah. So here's why I'm going to say 71. First off, he takes a spell assassination off the table. So that's a strong thing. Secondly, it's crazy how good +1 to hit and damage is for everything with the Eye of Menoth. It doesn't sound like much, +1. It's like, really? +1? Is that going to be the big difference? Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. And it is. It takes a Judicator from not being able to hit to being able to hit, and on the off chance that it misses, POW 10 blast damage is a thing. And
I would actually go as far as say that's a goddamn.
it's a goddamn thing. It certainly is. So here's the POW 10 blast damage. Hey, Ron.
Run.
So that's why I like Sevi 1. My current 3-list pairing that I use when I in a 3-list format is Sevi 1 with Adjudicator, Fiora 2 with Adjudicator, and Harbinger with a bunch of stuff that isn't Adjudicator. And I really, really, really like what it brings. If I had to go another direction, in 2014, it's pretty strong to have 2 purification casters on the table as far as your ability to, in a 3-list format, to be able to go and drop, make your opponent decide between, purification or not purification, and 2/3 of your lists are purification. It's a big deal. So I would say that's another way of thinking about it. So I would say make your choice between probably Krios 1, but be ready to make sure he doesn't die, because Krios 1 dies to a stiff breeze if you blow your nose wrong, and then or go that way. If you're feeling tricksy and you want to do something, I'm always going to say Resnick 1 because Resnick is my boy. I don't think it's a good choice though. What are your thoughts, John?
Like I said, there's a bunch that I have lots of respect for. Krios 1's always a thing. Krios 3 is a thing. I have respect for Resnick. But Sevi 1 can't be a bad call.
No, Sevi 1's amazing. So Flippity Bloop.
All right. Jerry puts another one in there. It says 1 underused unit that's worth another look at.
Underused unit that deserves a look at. I'll take this from my standpoint, John, at least on the ones that I'm currently playing a lot of. I'll take it from a Protectorate and Retribution standpoint. A unit that maybe doesn't see as much use, that you need to think a little bit more about, is Battle Mages. I think they've fallen. I think with the advent of Assyria, I think that the Battle Mages and Ron have maybe fallen back a little bit. But so I think that they have some really much like the Druids, although they don't bring quite the utility to the party that the Druids do. Having the ability to either choose between melee or magic is, I think, a big deal. And bringing those guys forward and pulling stuff towards your items. I'm having a lot of fun with the Ron theme force with the Fires on High. And so I think that's maybe one unit there. With the Protectorate, I'm begging you folks, rediscover the Idrian Skirmishers. They are sort of amazing. And with the Prey bonus, being able to put in, dug in, immune to blast damage, high defense troops with a POW 13 is a big deal. And I would urge, I know there are a lot of points. Hate me because I'm beautiful, and you're going to hate me anyway. But I think the Idrians are an underused unit in Protectorate that can bring a lot to the party. What do you think, John?
Well, I'll +1 on the Battle Mages and throw out Druids in Circle, since Will Pagani has poo-pooed them. People have not been playing them, but they're really good. They're like Battle Mages, a little more pricey, but they've got other game too.
Yeah, they sure do.
So keep them in mind. And then in Mercenaries, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to say Sam McCorn and the Devil Dogs.
Oh, I'm not going to poo-poo this.
They're pretty good. I love getting them into warjacks that want to go elsewhere and be like, oh, you only get a POW 10. What the heck do I care? I'll take a free strike. Then you're like, oh, I'll free strike with the net. You fall down, you're done. Hey, look, this is good stuff.
Hey, look at you all laying on the floor like that. No,
I've even had a Warple Frenzy, and he went after Gorman, who he said that was who to go after. I'm like, okay, sure. You know the rules. I don't. Went after Gorman. I'm like, well, this Devil Dog here in your rear arc's going to be like, net, fall down. That's a good frenzy. We're done here.
Hey, look at that puppy laying on the floor.
Walk away.
Look at that puppy laying on the floor.
Yeah, you hit one net having to roll. I mean, you have to roll pretty good to hit, but you hit one net and boom, they're done. I mean, they'll kill the crap out of it. And against jacks, even high defense jacks, they're set up be perfect to kill it because Sam goes in first. Bam! Now you're stalled. And she's got Mat 7, so she's pretty good.
Yep.
The next guy comes in, net. Now you're knocked down, and the rest are just like, and beat the crap out of you.
Hey, how about that trash
The
rule?
next turn, yeah. The next turn, when you're not getting the charge bonus, it's not as good. You knock them down. Then you're like, hey, look, we're not engaged. Slug guns at point blank range. What's up?
I love those guys. They're so flavorful. I enjoyed the.
And they're not expensive at all either. I mean, they're only 7 points for 10. That's
pretty
freaking
good. Cheap. Okay, I got to give me some devil dogs. I need to
and
do
they
that.
have Pronto, which is arguably the best Jack Marshall drive in the game.
Oh no, that's not arguable, man. That is straight up the truth. I will fight anyone on this podcast who would argue against that. And I will
then
be
with
at
the Buccaneers, it's 10 points, and you're like, all right, he rolls forward, gets a boost to hit, throws a net. Oh, look, you knocked down. Now he Pronto's out of the way, and we charge you and kill you to death.
How you like me now? I'll tell you that's.
I caught myself, Danny. I didn't say it's a thing because I know that's bugging you apparently.
Who Banyan doesn't like that?
Danny apparently does not like the "it's a thing" thing. So I'm trying to cut back.
That's Danny Goodner, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I got to troll him a little bit because trolling Danny Goodner is a thing. See what I did there?
Danny, I can't control him.
I double trolled him. That's because he and I have a romance that can't be denied. You know.
And then Banian drops in Black Banes as a unit that don't get a lot of use that he'd take a look at, and I agree.
Agreed completely.
They're pretty good too.
Yep, absolutely. So I think we'll leave it at there. So Flippity Bloop.
Yep. All right, got like 4 more to go. Try and get them pretty quick since we're getting that time.
It's all good though. I mean, I love the Flippity Bloop. Thanks, Brushheads, you're bringing the heat. I love it.
Absolutely. Matt Kay, who's Dark Jeeb, so he's one of the Dark Omen guys, relatively local to us.
Oh my God, love the Dark Omen guys. Best club ever. Go ahead.
All right, and then he says, Dozer and Smig, awesome or redonkulous?
Love them. Love them to death.
They're redonkulously awesome.
I'll tell you.
I'm very upset that I no longer have trolls because those are legit. And damn you, Chriso, you win another round.
I don't care what their rules are. They're amazing.
Exactly.
I don't care if they have inaccurate on that damn gun. Who cares? It's an AoE. It's awesome. I love. It's like I said on Facebook earlier this week. Every time I don't want trolls, I want trolls.
I know. I just got rid of mine, and I'm like, ugh. But instead, I'll just be happy for the guys who have them. And related to that, Joseph Merrick asks, what do you think Dozer and Smig will inspire blitzers to do, both serious and funny?
Oh my God. I don't know. I see.
I hope they give them +2 to hit if you can see them, just like that veteran leadership, or inspiring leadership, whatever it is. That would be amazing.
That would be broken. I'm gonna I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna come out in favor of broken. If there ever was a model that deserved to be broken wide open, it's the Blitzer.
Absolutely.
It's so much flavor, and that big meaty fist that Dozer and Smig have. That we all got teased with. It's like, what the hell is that? A gargantuan? Nope. Turns out it's just a Blitzer. Oh my God, so much awesome.
Yeah, he's gonna be awesome.
So I have the understanding that, and I've got an inside track on this, John. This is special tech I'm gonna put out here on the. It's not really tech, but I understand that G'day Bloke's trolls that he painted, the Tata Creel, might be for sale.
Oh.
And I am going to make some inquiries. I may have trolls by the end of this week because of Dozer and Smeg. I have been waiting so hard. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're super sweet. Little regret for selling trolls, but not too much. I helped the guy out. It'll be all good.
Yep. I just realized that I've been painting the whole evening with a number 2 brush. I'm surprised that I'm getting as accurate as I am with things, but Meg Maples will tell you.
Get in the zone. One of my buddies locally, John Connor, not hunted by the Terminator, painted an entire army with a starter brush, GW starter brush, and it was good quality.
This is not going to be a work of art, this particular Jack that I'm doing, this Stormwall, but it's going to be good enough, and I'm going to come back with it and do some more detail work, but I'll tell you what, this number 2 brush is super sweet, and I'm bucking to get a Games and Gears sponsorship for the show, and I'm hoping that we can, because I've been playing more and more with this Games and Gears. It's got a number 3 square brush and then a number 4 round tip, and I'm kind of loving it. And I'm not doing that to suck up to Sam Seggi, so he sponsors the show. But if he sponsored the show, I would really suck up to him.
Look, those guys are awesome because they are responsible for part of my interest in the game because their podcasts were, when it first started out, amazing at getting me into the game, and I'm a little upset they don't do them so much anymore, but
Yep. Well,
what
I
can you do?
mean, without Guts and Gears, there would have never been Lost Hemisphere Radio, and there would be no Menoth John. So I've got nothing but love for Sam and the work that he's done to help build a community. June 1st is Painting Day. Games and Gears Painting Day. So make sure that you join us. I might do an all-day thing. I'm not sure what day of the week that is, but I may just do an all-day paint-a-thon with Painting with Menoth John supporting Games and Gears. And if that doesn't get me a sponsorship, I'll do whatever it takes. I may go 48 hours if it takes that to get a sponsorship for the show.
June 1st is, funny enough, a Sunday.
Well, we will do an all-day lead-in then. We may go all day on Painting with Menoth John. Are you up for that? I know you've got commitments and stuff, John. What do you think?
As far as I know, I'm up for it. I'll have to check with Leaf Pay and see what else is going on. But
Okay.
So far, so good.
So plan on it, Brushheads. June 1st, here on Twitch TV, we are going to go all day with Painting with Menoth John in celebration of Games and Gears Painting Day. We're going to bring it to you at least as long as we can stand it. I think we'll start sometime in the morning and we'll probably end on a normal note because Cosmos is still happening at that point. But plan on it,
Plus
Brushheads.
Game of Thrones for the guys who like that. Yeah.
And Game of Thrones can't. God, Daenerys Targaryen. Mother of Dragons. Anyway.
I know what you're talking about, but still haven't seen any. So we got 2 more to go here.
She's beautiful. Anyway, so hey, Flippity Bloop.
All right. Adam Purdon asks, when are we going to get you to a West Side Con so we can hang out again?
I am thinking that I will plan on coming out for some version of the IMC at some point. I owe it to the Intermountain region because that's where I learned how to play this game. And Adam Purdon was the first co-host of Painting with Menoth John back in the primordial days when the tech really sucked. And I'd love to get him on. I'd love to get him on with you, John, and we could have sort of a bring it full circle, if you will. So
yeah,
he's a super.
I was there, so I remember I was in the chat room,
and that's exactly why you got the job, John Spencer. So you were legendary Brushhead before legendary Brushhead was a thing. Does that make you hipster?
Maybe. My glasses up right now. Oh, there we go.
Hey,
That's
sweet.
Better.
Flippity bloop.
All right, and the last one is from Jason Belsha. Says, can we expect full spoilers of Exigence before the book releases, just like Vengeance, or is there a hope for a few hidden gems?
Man, I hope this guy's just baiting me. I wrote a fairly lengthy thread on the PP forums, and yes, I am getting more Kraken because it's about that time. And God, please, Privateer Press, I love you. Don't spoil the whole thing. Can we please get a book that doesn't have a whole that everything is not spoiled? Because
no doubt.
It just, I like Christmas, and I appreciate it when Christmas has some spoilers. So, here's what I have to say to you, Privateer. Like I said in the open letter, let's get some spoilers. Let's surprise the community at least a little bit. I realize we got to keep the buzz, got to keep them sales going. But for sure, go ahead and let's spoil some of this stuff. But don't spoil the whole book. Don't do what you did last time.
I agree 100%. I still don't own Vengeance, honestly, because part because the store hasn't gotten a restock, and part because I haven't felt the need to go out of my way for it yet because I know what everything is.
John, I just heard you pouring your next drink, and I think that is fantastic.
I am. Another cherry Dr. Pepper mixed with wild cherry whiskey.
Well,
it's pretty good.
I want to reach out to the Brushheads, and I want to tell you that you are the number one reason why I do this show, and it is absolutely these flippity bloop questions that make it worthwhile to sit down here every Sunday night with you. We have the Sunday night extravaganza. If you're not coming to the Sunday night extravaganza, you're missing 98% of the show. I would say at least 98%, maybe 98.5%. You got to get here on Sunday nights. You got to live the dream with us here on Painting with Menoth John. And that moves us into the last segment of the show. We like to call it the Painting with Menoth John Movie Club. John Spencer, break loose on the Brushheads. What was our assigned movie this week?
We were to watch The Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element, the movie that introduced me to Mila Jovovich.
Indeed. And I've got some interesting things to say about this movie.
Okay, we're going to say right here now that if you have not watched this movie, I don't like to advise people to turn off my podcast, but I'm going to tell you to get the hell up on off my podcast right now, because we are going to spoil the living daylights out of what is truly one of the great science fiction epics of all time. John, give me your first deep thought about the Fifth Element.
It's a lot better than it has a right to be.
You damn Skippy, it is. In what way do you say that, John?
I don't know how to explain it. Well, I thought about it before I watched it today, and then I watched it and I'm like, the costumes are really, really weird. The set's weird. It's like
can we go back?
Necessarily fits.
Can we talk about the costumes for a second? Because did you watch the opening the opening credits, John?
I did.
Did you happen to see who the costume designer was for this film? Jean-Paul Gaultier, who is the man that put the cone boobs on Madonna. That
explains a lot.
That particular look was invented by a guy that was nothing but hot in the 1990s, a French designer by the name of Jean-Paul Gaultier. And so, yeah, it begins to explain a lot. It explains a lot about Lilu's outfit, and it explains a lot about the stewardesses on the Floss in Paradise. So
it reminds you of those old Pan Am pictures of Pan Am stewardesses when they tried to go for that certain homogenized look almost.
Yep. So it explains a ton. Luc Besson, who was the director of this movie, went all out on style.
Yeah, it was weird because you look at it, it's like there's no reason. And I figured out halfway through the movie part of the reason why all this stuff doesn't matter, the crazy costumes, just how potentially cheesy everything is. It's because it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it doesn't try and explain anything. How does X work? We don't care. It doesn't matter.
No, I mean, look at Chris Tucker's outfits as Ruby Rod. I mean,
oh my god.
I see what you did there. Oh my god. He dresses in skin-tight leopard bodysuits with reasonably phallic hair. Oh my god, it is so good. And the costume design is amazing.
And Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich just and also the guy who plays the priest. They sort of carry the movie themselves. I mean, you get a little bit of Gary Oldman, and he's fine. He's good in the movie, but those three pretty much carry the movie with their performances and keep it from collapsing under the weight of its silliness.
Yeah,
as it is.
The priest is actually a fairly accomplished actor, and
Ian Holm.
Ian Holm.
He plays Bilbo.
Yes.
In the Lord of the Rings trilogy, not the Hobbit.
Yep.
Vito Cornelius.
I mean, this is a very accomplished, excellent professional actor. This is no joke. The casting in this movie is as good as anything you'll see. Tiny Liston as the president.
Yes.
Oh my god.
That's like a master stroke. You're like,
that,
awesome.
That was Idiocracy before Idiocracy was Idiocracy.
The way he puts it out there, you don't feel like he's an idiot. You like, actually, it looks like he's just a president who's maybe, just actually elected by the people, sort of giving you the idea that maybe this isn't the dark police state like you kind of feel it could be.
Exactly. But my favorite casting is and you have to remember the time that this movie was made. It was 1998, and Luke Perry made it into this movie. Because Luke Perry was all that in a bag of chips back in 1998, and he has that very limited role that essentially screws everything up.
But it's a lot of the reactions people have to things is realistic. It's weird how realistic it is. People are scared of stuff. People aren't just, except for Bruce Willis, who's trained, hardened military veteran. You learn who's too cool for school. Everyone else, has relatively reasonable reactions to things.
How badass is Bruce Willis in this movie?
Pretty badass.
Oh my God. He is so great. Here comes Mila Jovovich in basically bandages, drops through the roof of his car, and basically pretty much is like, well, how can I help you, ma'am?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He reminds me of a lot of, Robert Forster and a lot of his roles. It's just unflappable.
Yep, very unflappable. And one of I felt he played a very similar role to what he played in the Die Hard movies.
Similar. He's a bit more unflappable and is a bit more hyper competent than he is as the everyman, cop.
True. I don't disagree with that. Belinda Librarian and I watched this movie last night, and it absolutely grabbed our attention, and Bruce Willis did such a good job as Corbin Dallas. And I think that this is the best performance by Mila Jovovich in any of her movies.
Yeah, probably. I haven't. Yeah, probably. I'm still waiting to see that Three Musketeers movie she was in, mostly for the giggles. But of everything I remember seeing, yeah, probably her best performance.
I mean,
well, maybe Resident Evil 1. I really like that movie.
Resident Evil 1 was really well done. I don't think that she was necessarily all that awesome as Joan of Arc, but I think that clearly in Resident Evil 1 she had more of a script to work with than she had in some of the later films. But boy, I'll tell you what, she does such a good job in this one, playing the quintessential fish out of water. This alien who is learning the language as she kind of goes along, and then discovers war. And here she is to.
I actually thought that was a little heavy-handed the way they did that, and I'm
my God.
She's been through a lot of words, a lot of letters that have really horrible things in there, and war gets her. I understand it was at that point they were really pressed to close the plot out and get the ending they want, but that may be, in my opinion, the only glaring problem with this movie.
Yeah, actually, she'd been past B and made it past Bukkake. And, if she could make it past that.
Wasn't a thing back then.
Oh, it was a thing. They just kept it under wraps. And if she read all of humanity's knowledge, she made it to Japan. So that means
G for genocide. That's some bullshit. War is bad. Genocide is,
True.
You can make it past genocide. War is like small potatoes.
Exactly. So you made it past genocide. So believability, I guess, does leave the discussion at that point. But that was quite literally the only part that I looked at and was like, I see what you're doing, but you kind of heavy-handed that. Other than that, why did the priest smack Gary Oldman in the back in order to get the cherry out?
He's a priest. He's not going to kill. I respect a man who sticks to his convictions.
Anyway.
But honestly, if he hadn't, think about the progression. They wouldn't have had his ship there in the end, and they would have died on the liner when it blew up.
How super sweet was it when the Warrior guys blew up the ship after Gary Oldman managed to disarm his own bomb?
It was super sweet, and those Warriors were cool. Even like horrible costumes. You're like, that's really horrible, but it works.
It totally worked.
Yeah, it was amazing. It defies description.
When the Montechians come rolling up in their less than fully mobile outfits, come on, guys. It's like you achieve star travel and you can't move more than 2 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's looking at it, like trying to find the words. I just can't.
Yeah, I know.
It is a good movie. It's not so bad it's good. It's so bad it's great.
Yeah. I love the movie. When I was back in the the late '90s when I was looking for my my home theater system that I would eventually buy. I used the Fifth Element and the Diva song part of the show to actually test to see how good the audio that they were going to try to sell me was. Because if it could do a great job with the Diva, then it was good to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great scene. My wife actually stopped playing and paid attention, watched that scene, then went back to playing her game afterwards.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Whoever it was that they found the singer to sing that song was absolutely amazing. You know, and I get the end part was probably synthesized and stuff like that, but there's no question that the early parts of it were 100% on an actual human singing that, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's got a great soundtrack too. My wife and I have the soundtrack, and it is an absolutely legit soundtrack. You guys want some good music? Pick that up.
That's Belinda and I were talking about that while we were watching it, and that we needed to own that soundtrack because it is absolutely fantastic, and not just the diva song. It is literally all of it is really interesting and different.
Yeah, no, none of them take too much time. I'm looking at it right now. There's a couple songs in there take a little longer time, but it's really good.
Yep. Hats off to Luc Besson. Hats off to everyone that was in this movie. I think that we're trying to present you guys here, the Brushheads, with good movies. I mean, yeah, we've picked maybe some off the wall ones to watch, but we don't want you to watch garbage here on Painting with Menoth, John. We want you to have a good time.
Has to
And
be at least so bad it's good. At
exactly,
least.
exactly, John. And
Which would have been
so
last month.
Bulletproof Monk was a fantastic movie. It's
Yeah.
just, it's an action flick, and we celebrate action flicks here on Painting with Menoth, John. So I would say that get out there, and I think it's time to give this one some ratings, John. What do you think?
I'm gonna give it half a shot of Kraken because in spite of how bad everything should be, it rises above everything and it's like, yeah, it's gonna be a good movie. What's up?
Exactly. I think it walks up in your face and gives you the business. I really do. God, I can't give it a full shot of Kraken. I hate to give it the exact same rating that you give it, John, because I'd like to see some diversity in our ratings. So I'm going to give it 0 shots of Kraken. I really do. I think you can look at this show. I guess
But you
I'm
didn't
going.
have the same hit at the end with me and the war thing. So I mean, sometimes I'm nitpicking, but someone's got to nitpick, and that's my job.
No, you're the co-host, the host. I mean, you bring a counterpoint to all the silliness that I bring to the. You bring your own style of silliness, which is a little bit more based in reality than mine. So I'm gonna say 0 shots of Kraken because Mila Jovovich wears tape in this outfit,
She
and
does.
she wears it quite well. And so I'm gonna give it 0 shots of Kraken. Honestly, guys, if you are a science fiction fan, this is one of the top 10 science fiction movies you need to watch. It's important. It set a stylistic trend. This never, in Belinda Librarian and I were talking about this, never before this movie had an Art Deco future been explored at quite the same level that this one has. I would
Yeah.
be willing to say that this potentially influenced the architecture of Coruscant in the second wave of awful Star Wars movies.
And did it better.
Did it way better. They tried to copy the Fifth Element, and I think they did a very poor job of it in the Star Wars movies. So, and before that, nobody ever had done any kind of an Art Deco approach to the future. So, go see the original, revel in it, and I'll tell you, you'll be far. It'll be a long time before you spend 2 hours that are better spent than with the Fifth Element. So, I'd say Flippity Bloop, but that's not where we are. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, so we got a couple minutes left. I'm actually going to throw a curveball at you here.
Oh, shiznat.
Yeah, and for me, actually, when I was sick on Wednesday with migraines, couldn't go to work,
Mm-hmm.
I sat in my room with earbuds in and pretty much read the entire first book of the Hunter Harrington series, which I
Okay.
know I'm slightly behind the team,
Oh, that's
slightly
okay.
behind the times,
That's okay.
but finally got to it. It was available for free on my Kindle Fire, so I'm like, hey, I'll pick it up and read it. It's supposed to be a good series, and enjoyed the heck out of the first book.
Yep. On Basilisk Station
Yep.
gives you that first look at what an amazing badass Honor Harrington is.
Yeah, and it's good. It has just enough realism to keep you in the story, and just enough like for most of the characters that you're actually worried that anyone except Honor Harrington herself are going to be killed. And I imagine if you read the book originally, you might be worried for her a little bit.
Oh yeah, if before the whole series happened, if you picked up on Basilisk Station before you knew that there was an Honor Harrington series, you might be very concerned that she was going to buy it. I've heard it said that it is Horatio Hornblower in space.
Yeah,
I've never read that series, but I'll tell you what, if that is what Horatio Hornblower in space is, then I want to read Horatio Hornblower.
absolutely. And I'm working on the second book now because it was also available for free. I was willing to pay for it, but if you're going to give it to me for free there, Amazon, I'll take it.
This is an audiobook?
No, it's not an audiobook. It's an actual Kindle book.
Okay. Oh my god,
Using the
those are
Kindle Fire for
free?
actual books now. Yeah, well, those two were.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
What
I
a
know.
deal.
And we'll give it a little Kindle Fire rating in there. Is the Kindle Fire is actually not bad to read with. It's not too heavy, nothing. It's good to read a book on.
It
I was
really is.
skeptical at first, being a hardcover kind of guy, but no, I'm down.
Yep, I have a Kindle Fire. I really enjoy the living daylights out of my Kindle. And if they're giving away two books, the first, I've read the first, I want to say 4 books of the Honor Harrington series. I we'll talk a little bit about later on, John, about where I think the series tends to go astray a little bit. But
I've actually had my cousin, also named John, who says that after like book 4 or 5, it starts to go a little crazy.
yeah,
But that may not stop me because I like some. I've been looking for a good series to get into because the one of the series I read was the Star Wars X-wing series, which hasn't had a lot of love recently, and unfortunately, the author of half of it, Aaron Alliston, passed
oh,
this
that's a
year
shame.
or late last year. So that's unfortunate. And then the other one is a Star Trek series, New Generation, which Peter David hasn't done anything with in a while because the Star Trek universe is kind of up in the air right now. So
Yeah, who owns the
another series
rights
to
to
read is
that
always
stuff?
good.
Who owns the rights to that stuff? At least for television, anyway. Do we even know?
Probably still Paramount, honestly, but
Okay. Seems like a lot of
yeah,
property to let slip through your fingers.
yeah. And then did you get to see Winter Soldier at all, John?
Not yet, but I'd love to hear at least a few brief thoughts about it.
Brief thoughts. Like I said, zero shots of Kraken. I will be a little critical.
0.
Early in the movie, it it has very quick cut, shaky cam type of action.
Hmm.
But I mean, I don't like that. It's not my thing.
Tell me it gets
But
out of that quick.
it does. But it fits because the early part, it's almost like a spy movie at that part, and that really fits. It's sort of born out of anything, you know.
I'm down with that. Is
Um,
Black Widow in it?
oh yeah,
All right, I'm down with
she's
it then.
she's good. And I'm not gonna give any spoilers. Avoid spoilers, but
Nope.
it avoids every possible problem I really thought it could have gotten to. Has some good nods to comic book fans. Um, and as we know, the Falcon is awesome. Holy crap!
Super sweet. We love it when they bring a new property in. And
And they have great chemistry. I mean, I listened to what's called highly suspect reviews on a website called oneofus.net.
mhm.
Pretty good if you're interested in movie reviews and movie stuff, geek stuff. And I listened to all the reviews, just about every movie, even if I don't have an interest in it, because it's like 15 minutes of talking about a movie. Maybe they'll say, "Hey, I want to see it."
Yep.
They've actually, them and their parent site they spun off from a couple years ago have helped me see a lot of movies I wouldn't have normally. And for the first time since they came in existence, I saw them all give it 10s out of 10, which
Wow, that's pretty
is unheard
impressive.
of. 3 of them with 3 different backgrounds all gave it 10s, and it's worthy. It's
Well, go
not the
ahead.
best Marvel movie because Avengers exists,
Yep.
but if someone were to tell me that they think it's the second best, I'm not going to argue. I like the first Captain America a lot better, but that's sort of my thing.
Well, that sounds great, John. I'm super excited to see it. I'm probably going to see it this week. We'll probably talk some spoilers next week. So
Yeah.
I'm
And if
gonna.
anyone is also watching Agents of Shield and you didn't watch last week's episode, I hear you have to watch Winter Soldier before you watch it, or you're going to get spoilers. So keep that in mind.
Well, that sounds great, John. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring the show to a close because after all this cracking and all this beer, I've got to pee. So we're going to call this a show. We're going to bring the music up. And hopefully it's going to bring up here, actually. Not hearing it, but that's really sad. So on behalf of John Spencer and on behalf of Menoth John, I'm going to say go ahead and hey, Ron. So good night, guys.